participation, we're going to make this the best year we've had in a long time. So thank you everyone for coming tonight and looking forward to building a strong community with you all in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lakitor. And now, let's invite Ms. Chan to the stage to give us her inspiring speech. Ms. Chan, please.
Wow, what a night! Thank you so much for inviting me, especially with all the honorable guests and Warden. Thank you so much. This is such a great homecoming day. Today I will have two sessions. The first session that I will try to introduce a bit of my life stories, how I actually come from a science student to investment banking, and then doing entrepreneurship, and until now. Later on after your banquet, right, I'll come up on the second session to go through some stories about Old Lady Hotel. And if you have any questions, do write it down and send it to the XCOM and pass it on, and we will have an interactive session later on. Right, okay, so my slide is ready. So turning risk to opportunity. So I'd really like you to think of this topic and to really think about what is that to you in your life. And myself, I'm currently running a few business. I'm on brand directing with New Skin, doing some global online marketing for the beauty and wellness business. And also at the same time, I had a bar in Lan Kwai Fong. I love food and wine matching. And I do have a yacht in Causeway Bay for private parties. So I really like you to think, this is just the beginning of the academic year, right? What can you actually do when you graduate, right? So, right, I would like to start this by telling my story with the next slide, please. Right, I am a person that I really like to connect with people. And this is one thing that I think I am gifted on. And you can really think about whether you have that qualities in you as well. And I like to really connect all of the great talents and then help them to perform. Let's say I'm on the Toastmasters Club and we do public speaking, and I like food and wine matching. How can I change it to a business, right? And I really like that idea. So I'm hoping that today that we can actually do some bombardment and some connection and see how we can evolve this into a bigger force to help the world. And for myself, right, to start with, we can, when I graduate, right, I am graduating from physics with computer science. So in my year, have you tried to find any jobs yet? Have you really looked at the Judges platform and check on what kind of part-time work, what type of permanent jobs which is out there? So by my year, when I look at that advertisement, right, the remuneration for graduates is only about 4,000 to 7,000. But before that, a lot of the accountants, when they're actually going into the Big 4 or Big 5 or Big 6 by then, they are actually earning 18,000. But economy had a big drop. So in my year, it's very difficult. So I got very lost in that days. So lucky that when I was in the secondary school days, I actually had some very good sports that actually helped me and to allow me to, well, get lost in the forest. How many of people here that have tried orienteering? To navigate just with a compass, a whistle, or probably a little bottle of water in unknown wilderness. And there was one time that I was in Japan for training, which was representing Hong Kong team. I get lost for 3 hours. And I got nothing on my backpack because we only bring out a compass, a little bottle of water. And I really was so scary. And the night is actually getting darker and darker. And you can actually hear the thunderstorm is actually coming over. And in the forest, right? So the rain starting to really pour down. And I was so cold, and I have to really embrace myself because I was so cold. And I think this experience actually helped me so much, because if you allow yourself to get lost and to really seek what is the great way to navigate yourself, that is one very important character that you can actually bring in the later day. So just to introduce a bit, right? So what is orienteering, right? It's like a treasure hunt. You need to find out probably 5 to 10 checkpoints, and whoever comes back with the shortest time, and he will win. But then you have to decide, when I want to go from point A to point B, do I go the very comfortable running way, just going a longer path, or I can actually climb up the hill and to shorten it, and I can actually get a better visibility, right? So it doesn't really matter. It really depends on your own quality. Do you run faster, or you actually could climb quicker, right? So that is something very key that I had to make so many decisions, so many choices making. And at the end of the day, when we actually come back from the events or the competition, we will sit with all other competitors, and then we will say, hey, why did you make that choice? What did you see? Did you actually go up the mountain and actually see the valley over there? And that's why you make a different choice. So we go through our failure. We go through our choices, and so that I can actually learn from our colleagues and our friends, and I can actually gain our experience. So that's very important. And then there's other thing that I really appreciate is that when I try to choose my curriculum, a lot of the Hong Kong families would really recommend you to be a doctor, to be an engineer, to be an architect, right? But then one thing that I learned so much from my teachers is to follow my heart. So that's why I was being stupid, right? So when I actually go through the JUPAS, I really write down, this is my first choice, going to medicine, but my grades are actually not good, okay? Second choice, I put architect, okay? But my grades are actually no good, right? So, very importantly, every single choice, I write next to it, why did I choose that, and what can I learn from this discipline or the training at all, right? And guess what? How did I land on the physics with computer science? Do you think what choice, number of choice that I have to go through before I landed on physics? Guess it. 5? Well, you have to double that. Physics with computer science is my 14th choice. But very happily, nowadays I'm still liking it, right? Because it taught me how to think and how to analyze and how to really make choices, right? So that's why one very key important thing that I gained from that is really follow your heart. And then when I landed in Hong Kong U, I'm quite like you, right? So go into a dormitory, try to gain into as much activities as possible, try to explore myself, right? Definitely we will skip the classes, okay? Or when the classes is happening, actually I am like snoring on the first row because I wanted to sit on the first row to force myself not falling into sleep. But very often, my friends had to nudge me and they say, you are disturbing the class. So that's why people knew that we are from the halls, because we always sit on the first row and all of them actually fell into sleep because after the hockey training, after the softball training, we are so tired. But then, we still sit in the exam, right? I think for the first year, I got 3 A's in my academic result. But, well, year 2 and year 3 is going downhill. But very thankful that I actually gone on to another program that is called the Intensified Learning Opportunity Program. So it is a program that put me into 18 months learning, which included DeRoyal University exchange. So I got a whole month, went there and really lived the life. And the first thing that I do is to buy a bicycle, because every day we have to ride a bicycle to all the lecture rooms, because it's so big and vast. You can't basically walk through them, right? And then that program actually helped me very much because it guided me to 10 industries. I went to the corporate visits. So make sure that if there is any program in the university, if it is for exchange or actually give you the experience that you can actually go on to actually see the world, make sure you join it, okay? So because I actually joined that, I knew there are things outside the science world. As a science student, normally I don't actually know what is investment banking. I don't know what is, the accounting firm. And that's why that 18 months actually bring me to a very important eye-opening experience. So I really like you to seize any chance if you actually had one later on. Okay, so then when I graduate, so going back to the 7,000 remuneration, right? So I find that it's super hard to find a full-time job. So I sent out all my resume out, 30 days, that I actually didn't get any reply. So I started to go on to another page, which is the part-time. And also there is another page, it's called the co-op student. But I actually graduated. I tried every single opportunity, although the society might yet tell you that this is not the right way of applying a co-op student when you are graduated. Don't let the society stigma limit you. And that's why I put myself in. I was thinking, if the company is not going to pay me anything, if they are big enough to give me training, I'm willing to do, right? So that's why I'm willing to be a co-op student. I never knew that actually they do have remuneration. So after interviewing, in the interview, right? So actually I don't know what is Merrill Lynch. I did research the corporate. I knew that it is a very big company. I knew that they are hiring computer science graduate, but then I was too naive. I don't know what is securities. So I asked my boss that day. He said, okay, this is the end of our interview. Do you have any questions? Then I said, well, because I actually don't know the industry at all. I asked him, so what is a typical day like for our industry? So he introduced me, how we actually design the program and how we actually take care of the clients and blah, 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 blah. I was thinking, really? Am I landing on a job called security, 保安, and then I need to do computer science thing programming? I didn't know that securities is 證券, right? So it's equities, it's well, 股票 you can actually invest on. So naive being a science student. So very lucky, the first boss that interviewed me think that I'm not qualified because they asked me, do I know Java? By then, I only know basic. So some other like programming language, right? But then he see that, well, this girl can communicate and is quite passionate. Let me refer her to another team that has lesser requirement. So that's why I landed on investment banking. Didn't even know what is Merrill Lynch corporate. It's actually big 3 in Hong Kong or in the world. So when I tell my friend, oh, I landed on 美林證券, they said, really? You went into investment bank, right? I didn't know. So, but then happy time go past very quickly. So in 1 year, because that is a contract, I was a co-op student. I actually got 12,000 as my starting remuneration. And then my boss tell me the bad news. Well, because you are part-time, right? We don't need you anymore. We don't need you anymore. Wow. I didn't really expect that. So that's why I asked my direct boss. He said that. And he also helped me to understand that, do you know, you're just like a wall painter, okay? So if I ask you here to fix something, to repair something, finish the contract, you're done, okay? But I actually thought that, well, that example is kind of like an insult to me. So that's why I go on to some other boss that they are running global projects. But then one boss, he said, hey, I actually like your attitude. I said, what are the ones that you like? You ask dumb questions. You don't sit on the problem. Because in investment banking, time is very important. You can't delay on the problem. So that's why if you can dare to ask dumb questions, that is a very good trait that I don't see in other graduates. Because they all sit on the problem until the deadline, and then they can't fix the problem anymore. So that's why he actually saw me staying late, trying to do my homework, not just blindly asking dumb questions. I do my homework, and then I go there and then say, hey, I did this, but then I still cannot solve this. Do you know whom I should be talking to so I can actually resolve this, right? So then they will point me to other places. So there, I got my permanent job, and he tripled my salary. See that, right? So I started with a job loss, okay? And people tell you, no, you don't have chance. And well, every time people actually give you a no, think it as an opportunity. Think of how to go out of the comfort zone and see whether you can actually think an out-of-the-box way to resolve that, right? So that's why, in that chance, I actually got a permanent job, and in 4 months' time, he promoted me again. Because he was very happy on the progress that I was doing. So that's why I really hope you to think of, well, in your daily lives, the students or the activities or difficulties that you face now can actually be an asset to you later on, okay? So very good. So next thing that I do is to, well, really go on and then see how the whole world is actually going, right? Yeah. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. And all the AI and big data and everything is actually coming into the world. And my job is to automate the computer systems for the equities trading. So you buy and sell the investment, right, with the exchange. And we are automating a lot of these systems, right, to help the company to cut down human resource. So after the program that we actually did for 6 years, we were able to cut down 90% of the front office people which are the biggest brain in the history. When you were reading the magazine and seeing people are actually having like 20 months of bonus, these are the people that we are getting rid of. So with the automating system, with the smart algorithm, these are the things that we are trying to do. And very soon, I got another chance that really helped me to really help another company to do this revamp, automation for them. So we took this to another firm. We only use 4 years to do what we used to do 6 years in the past. So every quarter, they ask us to submit some names that who can you fire in your team? Wow. So imagine that, right? Is that really competing with us, right? So the whole ChatGPT thing. So you really have to think of something that you might want to try in the future, that you don't only just do repetitive stuff, okay? So that's why during that job, I really want to see the outside world, and I started doing a lot of backpacking. So that is my first trip. I went to the Silk Road with some friends, and also we went to see my first snow and life as well. That is very good experience. I really encourage you when there is time that you go to different countries to really see their culture and to really understand why they're thinking this way. And that can actually bring back to your life later on. So that is the tough time for me. So I work every single day, probably till late night, 2 a.m. every single day. And I go back to office probably 7 a.m. So it's like a candle that you are burning both sides. And my health is actually having problem. And I lost one side of my hearing. So because of stress. Yeah. So I really think of why did I actually start having these problems, right? Why would I want to be in this field, right? I question myself, right? So this is something that when you're working 8 to 10 years, it's bound to be coming your way. It might be other symptoms, but for me, I lost the hearing. So I was really doing a project management role. I need to do a lot of calls, right? Like what you are doing now, like the Zoom calls, right? 10 years ago, I'm already doing those things, right? And you can actually see my technical, the thing that we're actually using the same size human, yeah. So it is something that you have to really juggle between your health and at the same time, right? So I had the hearing problem and I actually got promoted as well. And I can actually get to man a regional team of the size of around 10 people. And when I actually do project, right, so I am actually coordinating 70 people around the world to actually work together to do things, right? So these are the things that you have to balance so well in your life. And I really like you to see that stage. I am quite puffy, not like now. And currently I actually slimmed down like around 7 inches. But by then, right, so I was one of the MC for my best friend's wedding. So you can actually feel the pressure behind this lady, right? So a lot of times this is something super important, that how can you actually balance your life and also you can, start to do all these. So like I said, right, so 10 years ago, we are already using the technology. It's a real size mall that you will actually see your like New York counterparts, same size as you, right? So we are circulating the table, right? So we can actually do these, and we are coordinating project across the satellite office. And that's why how we can actually survive, right? So it's just like being chased by sharks with a broken boat. So this is how I felt. And very importantly, right, so you can actually see the economy crisis. in multiple rounds, right? So every few years, the economy is going to come down. So what are the skill sets that you can actually help you to stay afloat, right? So the resilience that you gain here would help you a lot. So that's why every time that I went out to do backpacking, I go on to any extreme sports that I could probably do. And that time I was climbing one of the mountains, which is 4,000 feet. But then that time, I really felt that I could be dead on the top of the mountain. So I started to think that, do I have other choice? Do I need to be in the corporate world? And do I still have the chance of like staying there and staying in one piece if I continue to be there? We did have some colleagues that actually worked till they are drop dead. It's real in the news. If you read the news in the investment banking, people in the research, people in other like a very demanding post, if they don't know how to balance that, right? So I started to come back to me and then ask, who am I? And what kind of qualities that I have, right? So I jot down all these things and I try to map out what kind of other path that I can actually gain. So I like you to think that within that graph, right, which role that you like yourself to be. Are you the one who are holding the binoculars to scout for your team? Or are you the ones that already, you climb that out and then try to form the human chain that help people to cross the difficulty? Or you are already the one that's saying, I am the one to lead the team to, guide them to a new territory. So what kind of role that you like to be? I like you to really think about that. So in that time, I really worked towards my body and I tried to work towards healthy habits and also try to use that experience. My coach was saying, hey, in 3 months to 6 months, you are actually having that transformation. You can actually help people to maintain their health as well. And that's why I started to become a coach. I started to help people using beauty device and using like different products to help them gain back their health. So this is what I do, and I help people to really think about what is their monetary plan in their life. So do you have sustainable income? Which means if you do get sick, will you still have the money coming into your bank account even if you don't work for 6 months? My mentor from the Intensified Opportunity Program, he asked me to always save up at least 18 months of salary to make sure that you are resilient enough. And if anything happens, you can make a choice, okay? So, and you remain the control on your own hand, okay? So that is something. So you look at that, year 2000 is about time that I graduate. I graduated in 96. So you can see the whole world come down as the tech bubble burst. And then now we are in 2020, right? So it's about the same time. Now you actually see the world. So it couldn't be worse. It would just climb back. So how can you prepare yourself now and get yourself ready to gain the right qualities so people can hire you and to bring that into their corporate to really help them. So this is the change that I actually had, right? So when I was still in secondary school, which is the blue shirt one. So and then at a certain point I was so puffy and very unhealthy. That is the time that I actually lost my hearing, and I decided to really go out of my comfort zone. I started my entrepreneurship. So now you actually can see me using those experiences to help people. And so I really like you go home and try to do some exercise like putting down your dream. what would you like to do? What are the key things? You can put your own dream draft. So I like to do 3 things. I like to do some verbal history. I like to record the stories. Actually doing the LHT Storium project had helped me to complete that already. So that was the time that I spent 3 years and scanning a lot of the magazines and also old material, which I will demonstrate later in my second session. So you can actually see, and we interviewed a lot of our old graduates, and I had their history jot down. And I hope that we can actually analyze their culture across different decades. Second thing that I like to do is to really throughout the creative ideas to invent things, right? So these are the things that I'm doing as my hobby. And the last thing that I like to do is to really build a vineyard. So I like food and wine matching a lot. So come to my working holiday, and you can help me to prune some grapes later on if I do have that dream come true, right? So I really like you to think about your dreams, right? So the whole world had changed so much. This is the UBS trading floor. It used to be the biggest one in the 2008 in the world, and is actually 44 tennis court, right? Is how big it is. But when everything is being digitized, right? 2016, the whole thing is becoming emptied. So this is the world that you are in. That means a lot of opportunities. I really hope you to see that. So, and even in the Hong Kong exchange, right? The whole era has been changed. The day that I stepped into Merrill Lynch, we were already doing the auto matching system for the whole industry. And 2017, in probably 10, 15 years time, the whole thing completed, right? And all the old employees is no longer needed anymore. So be smart, pick something that won't replace you anymore in the world. So it's very important. And I like you to really see that there are very many industries out there, for example, fintech, and like the elderly business, because they are the richest person in the world now, and with the baby boom, they are one of the, I think it's 50% of the world population. They are over age 60. And if you think of something that you can actually serve them, help them to maintain their healthy life, that would be something that can really help half of the population of the world. Some other really interesting stuff would be content marketing, which probably you're already doing, right? Daily using your Instagrams, right? A lot of your social media thing. You are very familiar with the doing videos, like editing, promoting ideas. Those are the stuff that you can actually try, right? And we can actually try some new stuff. So I like you to really think that in my old days, only the more adult or the older youngsters are actually learning orienteering. But nowadays, even age 4 or 5, they are already doing the orienteering. So the generation is actually chasing you. So I'd like you to really take away some key points today. Allow yourself to get lost. Don't be afraid when you are wandering from ideas to another ideas, and when you feel that you are confused, don't be afraid. Take it on and try to manage that fear. And that should actually give you a lot of choice and a lot of flexibility on the other hand, if you think it in the other way. And very important, the stigma and also the general impression that the society is actually giving you. Come on, you are all the latest generation. You can think of the exceptions where you can actually break through them, right? And lastly, when you actually see the dead ends, crisis, that's where you can actually bring in disruptive change. That means something totally new, might not be embraced by the previous generation. So don't tell me that, I have to organize an event like this because my senior told me it has to be done that way. So think of that. This is your opportunity. This is your day, and make sure that you have the income. And buying a car, buying renting a house, or try to buy your home is actually a commitment. So it's a deficit. It's not a positive cash flow. So try to read different books that help you to really manage your financial so that you can have the passive income. And then very importantly, try to be there, dive in, and to balance that, okay? So with this, right, so I tried so many times and I go brum, right? My whole person is like rolling down, and then you climb up again, and if the day that you find the balance, this is where your prize is. This is very important, okay? So, and also, do treasure any mentor which is by your side. Probably they are of the same age, and really to give encouragement, and you can criticize them and give them constructive feedback. And I really treasure that during my life. I had so many good mentors in my life that give me the advice, and I really hope that one day, as I said at the very beginning, we can be networked together with different talents, and we can achieve something big in our lives later on. So that would be something very important. And if you want to stay connected, this is my contact, and this is my ending of my first part of sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Chen, for your